One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening, and hopefully you'll be doing this for the next 7 more nights after tonight, because Hanukkah, as you know, is an 8-day holiday. My name's Steve Raichilson. I'm a religious volunteer with your active adult community, and it's my pleasure to help you celebrate Hanukkah this evening and for the duration of the holiday with a nice ceremony I developed that hopefully will have you enjoy tonight, but also help you with your memories of past Hanukkahs and all the great times you had in the past with the holiday, with your children, with your grandchildren, when you were a child. Let's think way back then. And we'll be looking at the future of more Hanukkahs together, like we're doing this evening. So I said my name's Steve Raichilson. I'm a volunteer. My hometown's Buffalo, New York. I'm currently coming to you from Cleveland, where I live now. And we're here to celebrate Hanukkah, which, as you know, is called the Festival of Lights. Well, first thing we like to do, and it's tradition in Jewish religion, talk about history, like we do with Passover. We have the story of Passover. There's actually a story of Hanukkah that we'll talk about now. And it's a historical holiday, which I mean, it really happened. You know, the historical events around this holiday really happened. It's not a biblical story, which some people think biblical stories happen. Some people think they don't. They're there to give us moral guidance. But the story of Hanukkah, the historical perspective actually did exist. And it started in the year 200 BC. Now 200 BC really means 200 years before the start of the Christian calendar. Now the Christian calendar, you know, we're in the year 2020. So now we're talking about 200 years before that. That was 2,200 years ago, which is a long time. And that's when the Hanukkah story took place. 200 BC was a very, very turbulent time in Israel. Actually, at that time, Israel was called Judea. We all know that from our Sunday school days, the name Judea. That was the ancient Israel. Very turbulent times. It seems the Jews were conquered by the Syrians. And they took over the land of Israel, the Syrians. And the Syrians practiced religion like the ancient Greeks. So as we know, the ancient Greeks worshipped idols, stone gods, Zeus, Hercules, the sun. Certainly not the god that the Jewish people worshipped. But believe it or not, the king of the Syrians, the first king who conquered Israel, was very, very righteous, a very nice man. What he wanted was taxes. He wanted the Jewish people to give him taxes, and he basically would leave them alone. So they had a somewhat peaceful coexistence with him for the first 10 or 20 years. His name was Antiochus, King Antiochus from Syria. The problem was that when he died, his son, whose also name was Antiochus, took over, and he had different thoughts about the empire and Israel. His thought was he wanted everyone to be like the Greeks. The Greeks, you know, their lifestyle of athletics, of Olympics and marathons, of worshiping stone gods. It was very, very state of the art. It was the in thing to do. And the son, the new King Antiochus, wanted the whole empire to be modern, to be like the Greeks. And the Greeks everyone wanted to be like the Greeks. It was the thing to do. So he outlawed the Jews practicing their own religion, which obviously didn't go over well in Israel at the time, because Israel was a very religious country. And when the Jews kind of still practiced their religion, he went further, and in the main temple in Jerusalem, which really got people upset, he built stone gods of Zeus and Hercules. And the worst insult was, I think this led to the revolt. They sacrificed pigs in the main temple. Now that may not be a wide historical fact, but it actually was true. Despite the Jewish people, he actually massacred pigs in the temple. You know, pigs obviously are forbidden food, and that was the last straw. And the Jews started open revolt against the Syrians, open revolt. It was literally a very bad war. It was warfare, guerrilla warfare. And a Jewish high priest called Matthias led the revolt, Matthias Maccabee. And when he died a year later, his sons, he had 4 sons, the Maccabee sons, and the main son, the general, was Judah Maccabee. We all know the name Judah Maccabee. He was we call him the first Jewish freedom fighter. He marshaled the country. They resorted to guerrilla warfare. And actually, after 2 years, they made things so bad for the Syrians. They raided their supplies. They ruined trade. They refused to pay taxes. They were killing Syrian troops. That the Syrians said, enough of this, and they literally pulled out. So the Jews won. They won after a 2-year, very bloody war. The temple was ruined. It was a heap of rubble. But they managed to reconstruct the temple for a large celebration. And you know where I'm going with this story, obviously. They worked to clean the temple up, and the main temple in Jerusalem, and they were going to have a celebration that they would be getting their temple back, their religious lifestyle. They would throw off all the Greek ways, and they had the Jewish culture back. And there was a large candelabra in the temple called the Menorah, and that gave light. Obviously, in those days, there's no electricity. You know, you depended on oil and flame, oil to keep the flames going for light at night. Well, they thought they would have a festival to celebrate their victory over the Syrians, and they wanted to go as long as possible. They only had enough oil for 1 day, 1 night, because they had no religious oil. You know, it was all ruined, and they never had time to make more because they were in open warfare. So they thought, well, let's just have the celebration, and then at least we'll have 1 night celebration. So they lit their candelabra, and thousands of people in Jerusalem came. You know, it was a mob scene actually outside the temple to celebrate the victory over the Syrians. And they partied and prayed and celebrated all night. And a mysterious thing happened. By day 2, the candelabra was still burning. The oil wasn't used up in the candelabra, and they celebrated a 2nd day. And guess what happened? Of course, you know, the candelabra burned the 3rd day, and the 4th day, and the 5th day, and the 6th day, and the 7th day, and it finally burned out the 8th day. Where here you had the Jews celebrating for 8 days the victory over the Syrians with 1 day's worth of oil. And the meaning was, and the interpretation was, that God was so impressed that the Jewish people fought to get their religion back from the Syrians that he rewarded the Jewish people with an 8-day festival, an 8-day celebration to reward them for their sacrifice. Thousands of Jews died in that war, and their economy was ruined. And you know, they were mainly farmers, and here they were fighting. So they had to get back to their agricultural economy. They were ruined as an economy, but they got their religion back, and God celebrated with them. So that's the story of Hanukkah. We're celebrating that that oil lasted 8 days when it really should have lasted 1 day. So that's a story of Hanukkah. And let's talk about Hanukkah from the standpoint of memories past. What are some of your favorite memories of Hanukkah? Obviously, when you were young children, your family celebrated Hanukkah, you got gifts, you had special foods. Let's talk about the foods. So what are the famous popular foods of Hanukkah? Well, one, of course, is potato pancakes, latkes. And another, I think more common in Israel, they actually eat jelly donuts. I think the latkes are more of an American Hanukkah tradition. In Israel, they eat fried jelly donuts. Now let's talk about fried. So latkes are fried in oil. Jelly donuts are fried in oil. What's their significance? Well, obviously it's oil. So why do we eat those foods? Because we want to remember that the holiday centers on oil. It was all because of the blessed oil that lasted 8 days. That's why we eat these oily foods. Some of my favorite memories, I know, let's think back some memories. Some of my favorite memories from Buffalo, my mother made a dreidel out of a 6-foot coat hanger. So we would put presents. Now it's traditional, as you know, in Hanukkah that you get a gift for 8 days. You celebrate for 8 days, you get a gift for 8 days. Unlike Christmas, where you get, you know, your presents Christmas morning, of course, another beautiful tradition. With Hanukkah, we get a present for 8 nights. it's a good thing going. We got 8 nights of presents. Nothing wrong with that. So when I was a kid, we had 4 children, and 4 times 8 is 32. So we would come downstairs the first day of Hanukkah before we lit the candles. There'd be 32 presents under the dreidel. And that was one of my fondest memories. And when we had our children, I have 3 boys, my wife and I did the same thing. We made a 6-foot dreidel, put all of our presents under the dreidel. And that's a tradition that hopefully my children will have going on with their children. Another memory I have, and this is a rather unique memory, I'm from Buffalo, and Buffalo had a very nice, when I was in my 20s, we had a nice bar life. A lot of, kids my age went to bars and where we met our friends. And it was the first night of Hanukkah, and, happened to go into a bar. And I lived in more of a Jewish neighborhood in Buffalo, and we went to a bar in the neighborhood, and there were a lot of guys at the bar drinking shots of whiskey. And they were shouting, Judah Maccabee. So me and my friends went over to the crowd, and what they were doing, they were toasting Judah Maccabee with shots of whiskey. And I thought that was a rather unique way to celebrate Hanukkah. They were downing shots of whiskey and saying, to Judah Maccabee, first Jewish freedom fighter. I'll never forget that story. And then when my boys are in town, they're 35, 33, and 31. We actually do that tradition. I break out the bourbon bottle, and we do shots of bourbon, toasting Judah Maccabee, the first Jewish freedom fighter. So that's some of the memories I have, and please think about some of the memories that you have over Hanukkah. Well, to get a bit more serious, I think we should talk about the menorah and light our Hanukkah candles, because that is one of the main ways we remember what happened 2,200 years ago by lighting Hanukkah candles to commemorate the oil lasting 8 days. So here is our menorah, or it's my menorah, and you'll see there's 8 candles already set up, 1 for each night. And the center candle, right here, that's the leader, that's the attendant. We use that called the shamash. We use that candle to actually light the other candles. So I'm going to light the candle now safely, and let's see if we can have our there we go. I'm going to bring this up to you. It's hard to light it without it falling. So here, we'll try to do this. Here we go. So I have my shamas. Here we are. And we're going to light our first candle. Okay, that's the first. This is our first night of Hanukkah tonight. And we're going to say some wonderful blessings. I'm going to put the candle back in the menorah and put that safely off the side. And I'm going to say some prayers that I'm sure you know as we're lighting the candles. And I'm going to sing these. Believe me, I'm not a trained cantor. I'm a volunteer, but I'll do the best I can because I know that you are singing with me. That's very important, okay? That you are singing with me. So here we go. The first prayer of lighting the menorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushenu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. You sound great. And let me just translate that in English, what it means. It means, praised are you, God, Spirit of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the Hanukkah candles. Now that's the first prayer. There's a second prayer that is commonly said during Hanukkah when you light your candles every night. And here it is. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shias nesam lav avoteinu bayamim hahim bazman hazah. And that means, praised are you, God, Spirit of the universe, who performed miracles for our ancestors in their day of the season. 2 beautiful, beautiful prayers that we say as we light our candles. Now, what would be a service of Hanukkah without music, without song? And there are some wonderful songs that we sing during Hanukkah. And I'm going to sing these songs only if you sing with me. You know these songs. I'll sound a lot better if you've given me cover, what you've given me back. So please sing these songs with me. Now, the first song is called the Hanukkah Party Medley, and I'm going to sing it one time so you become a little more familiar with it. If you haven't sung in a while, then a second time around, sing it with me, okay? And we'll go really slow. Here we go. The Hanukkah Party Medley. Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll all have a treat. Sitting young to play with, that's a candy, and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning bright. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Okay, now sing it with me. Same second verse, as they say, is same as the first. Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll all have a treat. Sitting young to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning bright. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Well, that was fun. And now we're going to sing, though, the top hit of the top 40 of Hanukkah songs. The next song is the top of the top 40. This is it. I know you know it. This concerns a toy we call the Dreidel. The Dreidel is a clay or wooden top we spin during Hanukkah. It's a little bit of a form of gambling, but we gamble with chocolate coins. We have gold coins, and inside is wonderful chocolate. And that's what we gamble with during playing Dreidel. People bet on what side the Dreidel is going to fall on. And if that Hebrew letter is what they call, they win the pot. And it's a fun game. I know you all know what a Dreidel is. You've all played it before. So let's sing our song, the top 40 hit, called I Have a Little Dreidel. I have a little dreidel, I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. It has a lovely body, with legs so short and thin, and when my dreidel's tired, it drops and then I win. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. My dreidel's always playful, it loves to dance and spin. A happy game of dreidel, come play now, let's begin. Oh, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay, and when it's dry and ready, then dreidel I shall play. Well, you were great. I heard you singing all the way in Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, you were great, and you did justice to that song. Well, I think that concludes tonight's Hanukkah service. I would be very pleased if you would have your own Hanukkah services or watch this for the remaining 7 nights of Hanukkah. It's a wonderful holiday that really commemorates, I think, the survivability of the Jewish people. You know, 2,200 years ago, the Jews had a terrible problem with the Syrians. And all throughout history, Jews have, as a people, had serious problems. We had the Spanish Inquisition in the 1400s, where the Jews were kicked out of Spain, and those who left either had to convert or were crucified. We obviously had the Holocaust in World War II, where 6 million Jews were murdered. And the modern state of Israel has been experiencing many wars and terrorist attacks during its history. But one thing we've seen is that Jewish people as a group survive, and they prosper, they endear. Maybe it's because of their mission to make the world a better place. And I think that's what God wants each Jewish person to do. So as you remember Hanukkah, and as you light the candles each night, please remember the sacrifices that people before us made to worship as Jews, and do your part to make the world a better place, which we think is why God has made the Jewish people survive so long. I'm Steve Raichilson, wishing you a happy Hanukkah, and hopefully you'll do this for several more nights and have a joyous holiday season. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.